Namaste, Namaskaram, Vanakkam, Namo Namaha, Jai Ganesha. Please visit our website at classicalyoga.org, and there is a donate button if you'd like to help us out. Are your pants pockets inside out? From the moment we're born, we start this slow process of self-identification. Initially, we're just so enwrapped in living in the eternity of the moment. There's no past, there's no present. It's just one moment after the next, being in that eternal now, which truly is all there really is. Timelessness. But slowly, people begin to call us by a chosen name that we obviously didn't choose. And like any animal, we soon learn to respond when called. And the process continues. We take on a name. We realize we're either a male or a female, a boy or a girl. And we go on to accumulate various identities. We obviously get a birth certificate with now our name and address, time of birth, age. Later we get a social security number. And then various other identifying marks. If one happens to go in the military, for example, they get a military number. If we end up in jail, we get a prison number. We get various licenses and perhaps different degrees, letters after our name. And on this process goes of creating a self-identity. This is our ego nature, our personality develops. This is the very natural process of becoming. And as we continue, year after year, decade after decade, if we live long enough, slowly, a lot of these outer identities start to fade away. In the Hindu yoga dharma, we speak of the Varna ashrama dharma and ashrama dharma. Varna ashrama dharma is the appropriate term, not caste, for the different mindsets which become often occupations, natural proclivities within any individual. We have people who enjoy physical work, labor, builders, contractors. We have people that enjoy business work. We have people that enjoy assuming a protective mode, if you will. Military, police, ambulance drivers, firefighters, warriors, and then we have educators. This is classic within any society. In the Hindu Yoga Dharma, we call this the Varna system of Sudra, laborers, Vaishyas, the merchants, Kshatriyas, the warriors, and the Brahmins, the educators. But on close reflection, we see that within all of us, we more or less do all four of these things. We all do labor. We all take care of the business of life. We all protect, hopefully, in one degree or another, our family, friends, our profession, our religion perhaps. And we all educate to one degree or another. This is what we call the Purusha Sukta. So individually, we have these four varnas, which, by the way, means tone. In other words, it's the vibration of an individual. Some people are just naturally attracted to one or more of these natural divisions in society. Obviously, when they become rigid and hierarchical in a very negative sense, either feeling superior or inferior, then the trouble begins. Sadly, Hindus adopted the Portuguese word caste, and it became an ironclad, rigid system for many. In the Hindu understanding of ashrama dharma, this is a metaphor. Ashram is a Hindu place of study and worship, but our body is also our ashram. As we go through the four natural stages of life, where we begin as a student, and then we enter family and or career, and then we retire, and then get ready for physical death. Hindus call this brahmacharya, the student stage, grihastha, the family and career stage, Vanaprastha, the retirement stage, and sannyas, the final stage, preparing for physical death. And in the do margas, or the two paths, we also see those that from young don't feel inclined to go into the family path, and they become what are known as the sannyasins. These are traditionally the monks and nuns, the shamans around the world. Those few individuals that hopefully in another lifetime has completed these 4 ashramas and go right into sannyas. But even those, they also are students in the beginning, and the family becomes a world family. And then they often retire and do less outer work, and again get ready for physical death. And speaking of religion, this becomes an identity for many people. So all of this outer identification is a very natural process of just living life. The various species of the world are all identifiable. In other words, we are really living life from the outside, in a sense, in. Let's go back to being infants again. We were just in the eternity of the moment. We didn't know our name. We didn't have any kind of self-identification at all. But slowly we went out and out and out, and learn now to identify with the outer world. But there does come a time when we start to reflect inwardly. This may come at any age, but certainly the older one gets, especially as the body and the mind and the emotions naturally start to weaken, or when tragedy strikes, many people begin to turn inward and ask questions. This is often the beginning of a true religious spiritual search, as we go within and seek answers within of why we do, what life is all about, what our purpose of life is. This is introspection. Many times in the outer search through life, we go to extremes and create extreme stress in our life. At that point, we truly know that we need some inner space, some inner reflection, and we may often turn to illicit means to conquer this stress and strife. Alcohol, illicit drugs, various pursuits that kind of take us away from thinking about ourselves, mindless entertainment. But eventually for all of us, again, to one degree or another in any one lifetime, we begin to reflect. Notice all these English words that start with RE are about a linking process: to reflect, to remember, relationships, relate, reiterate, and religio, or religion, to link. In other words, there comes a point when we start to contemplate deeper understandings of what life was all about. Maybe having just exhausted the outer search, or become extremely disappointed with what we've become on the outside. Whatever the case, all of us at some point, especially as we age, we begin to turn inward, and then the true religious spiritual process begins. Many people read various religious texts, various philosophical works. Many people query about meditation. In today's world, many get interested in yoga, in mindfulness. However, it's important to recognize that yoga, mindfulness, these are coming from the established religious traditions of Hinduism and Buddhism, respectively. And of course, Buddhism really comes right out of the Hindu religion, Hindu Dharma. And ironically, paradoxically, not recognizing the true nature of these disciplines, for example, Tai Chi also, that comes from the Taoist religion. When we don't recognize these traditions, we actually turn what is an inner process into a more gross outer process, i.e. today's so-called yoga, divorced from its religious roots. It now becomes an outer exercise business, When it comes to these deep introspective processes, true religion, spirituality, now we are going in. There's still obviously an outer element, taking care of the temples and the ashrams and the mandirs and the cathedrals and the churches and all of that, the business of running a religion, but it's essentially about an inner search. Therefore, when it comes to true religion and spirituality, and those words always go together because there must be a process to uncover one's inner spirit, if you will. Hindus call it the Atmana, which is the more appropriate word, for it literally is not our body, mind, or emotion. It's our inner essence of love, light, and energy, Sat Chit Ananda. So when this inner process becomes confused, we see three negative things happening. These are red flags in any true religious spiritual tradition. The three P's: picture, personality, and price tag. These are actually the antithesis of the going in process, the relinking process, religio or religion, which Hindus also call dharma or dri, the holding process, or yoga, yuj, to yoke, y-o-k-e, the yoking process. To, in a sense, go now from the outside to the inside. This is the practice. Recognizing the material world, recognizing the outer identifications and things that we do, but going in and starting to see life more from an inner perspective. The more one becomes seasoned in this inner reality, this inner understanding that transcends, meaning having climbed through, going through life, having transcended the many outer experiences, one begins to see life more from now the inside out. A total 180-degree shift in consciousness. In a real way, many begin to see through some of the delusions they may have been suffering from for decades. When one fully identified with the body and the mind and the emotions and the personality. And when these began to fade, many go through an existential crisis, if you will, and realize that much of this was just a delusion of our own making. Very real and very important while we went through it, but we do go through it and eventually see beyond it. And realizing that to continually identify with our name and our form, our body, our mind, our emotions, is to make a great mistake. This is kind of a rude awakening because it's been very natural to build up this personal identity. It's began from infancy. But this is kind of the humorous joke, in a way, that life plays on all of us as we go out and fully identify as an outer being until we realize that's only partial, in a sense, of who we truly are, and going ultimately deep within to the inner essence, we realize that that was only a very superficial understanding of the totality of our being. Now we start to become more the mystic and realize through experience, having gone through it, the many mistakes of having been stuck in the external world. So now beginning to see more and more the folly of the many things that we did on the outside, we're viewing life more from the inside. It's no wonder that mystics throughout the ages have always been misunderstood because of this diametrically opposed approach to life itself. Initially, we're just seeing life from the outside in. The mystic now, the seasoned mystic, sees life from the inside out. So clearly they're misunderstood. And truly, how can anyone understand, literally, one who understands all others? So often these mystics are just ignored at best or gotten rid of because they're very uncomfortable to those in a totally outer pursuit of life. So here's an exercise. Put your hands in your pockets and turn them inside out. Perhaps if you're wearing a coat or a jacket. And notice the reactions on people as you walk by. They'll think you look rather silly. So this too is kind of the humorous understanding of the mystic looking at all of us when we're truly living life from the outside in. The solution? Obviously, put the pants pockets back in. This is the maturing now of the life process, as we now comfortably see life from the inside out. Realizing we are an inner essence. This is the soul or the spirit mentioned in all the religions of the world, obviously using English. But it's important that we understand there's a difference in the Hindu dharma between the words soul and spirit and the Atmana. Soul and spirit, English words coming from the Latin and the Greek, still are connected to the mind or psyche. And spirit often refers to the Holy Spirit in monotheistic traditions, especially Christianity. But to the Hindus, the Atmana literally means not the mana or Atmana, not the mind. So this true inner essence is not the mind, and obviously not the emotions or the body either. It's temporarily, like when we get in a car, it's inhabiting this vehicle, if you will, of body, mind, and emotions. But ultimately will transcend them. And what is this inner essence? Is it simply a theory? No, it's the fact. The inner essence of all, pure energy, which can neither be created nor destroyed. You may listen to our podcast on life and creation. It just is. It's pure energy. And it's light. Both illumination, outer and inner light, and the feeling of buoyancy or lightness, joy, bliss, happiness, love. We Hindus call this Atmana Sat Chit Ananda, which is actually E equals MC squared. Pure energy, pure consciousness, matter, Sat. Pure energy, Chid, and light energy, which becomes the inner knowledge. And then the heat or the warmth of life, or the bliss, the love, the Ananda, Sat Chit Ananda, or love, light, and energy, Jyoti, Shakti, Ananda, Shanti. Light, energy, and a loving peace. The inner essence of all. And not just humans, but our animal friends too. And kind of humorously, they often exemplify more of this inner accepting love than we humans do. Because our outer ego nature still takes control and rules once in a while. So for all of those who are out to destroy the, again using English, the religious process, this is inherent in the human being as we go out and out and out, and then at some point turn in and in and in, trying to relink religio, or to the Hindus, learn what holds dri or dharma, or links one together, yoga, in the inevitable, meaningful and beautiful process of going out and going in. It's as simple as the breath. It's always been here. It's right at the tip of the nose. We go out, we go in. We breathe out, we breathe in. We're born, we die. We're born, we die. We go into deep sleep of no-thingness. We wake again. Deep sleep, we awake. Night and day, quote-unquote sunrise and sunset. Creation, preservation, destruction. Repeat the cycle. The spiraling evolutionary pattern that is life itself. The spiraling galaxies that both pull the energies in and out simultaneously as we create, go into the black hole, emanate out again into creation. From the nothingness to the Big Bang, to the evolutionary process, to dissolution, repeat. Just like daily or weekly washing our clothes. They get dirty, we clean them, put them in the agitation cycle, the spin cycle, come out clean, get dirty again. This is the life process, out and in. In the Hindu Yoga Dharma, in the Vedas, our original scripture, we speak of the Ashvin twins, the twin physicians. Remember, doctor, heal thyself. The twin physicians are actually the breath, both the out-breath and the in-breath, and the two nostrils, the very duality of life. With one cut, you make two pieces, Yoga Swami. As soon as we have creation, we have everything in its opposite, the natural world of duality. It comes out of the nothingness. The nothingness is within it, and is there, obviously, at the dissolution of the duality. Religion is about understanding the natural duality in which we live. If we have a good grounding from early on, the going out process in life becomes more understood and becomes a beneficial game or play of life, so that we live life and obviously make mistakes, but we don't make the big mistakes that put us into holes that just retard our growth, holes that we often dig for ourselves and fall into, or fall into the traps laid by others, from which we then must climb out again and start the whole process over again. This is why Hindus understand the eternal nature that is life, hence the wisdom of reincarnation. As an energy form of love, light, and energy, we just simply keep transforming form. We say, Ekam Sadvipara Bahuravarante, a unified existence, a consciousness, a pure energy that simply transforms and takes on innumerable nam and rup, or name and form. So perhaps if you get to meet someone who has done a lot of work on the outer and the inner nature, a mystic, if you will, a deeply realized person, and they may laugh a little bit, sense of humor, kind of laughing at some of the actions that we do, know that it's not in a sense of being arrogant or egotistical. It's like a parent who lovingly laughs and smiles along as their young child pretends to be this or that, exercising compassion and love and watching and helping them to grow. If we look at many of the figureheads behind today's massive religions that have developed in their name, we often see just very humble, non-materialistic individuals who have transcended, who have lived through life. If one looks at the Jewish Rabbi Yeshua, or the Buddha, or Lao Tzu, and great religions were developed in the name of these who lived really a very simple inner life, Christianity and Buddhism and Taoism respectively. If we look at the Hindu Yoga Dharma, we find the ancient rishis and the gurus, the mystics, the yogis, who live very interior lives, having assuredly lived many lives of outer search, outer accomplishments, until they turned inward, and these became role models for others to also go in. So, for example, in the Yoga Sutras of the Saiva Hindu Guru Patanjali, which sadly have been so misconstrued by those who are still on a very much of an outer search of life, trying to understand these mystical teachings. But a true read of these and other mystical works in all the religions of the world, and certainly in Hinduism, show that the intent is not, at this point, to go out and out and out, which sadly, this is what's happened to the profound yoga teachings. They've gone out and out and out. But no, it was to go in and in and in, and to not really be something, but to, in a sense, be nothing, to be a no body, which really is the definition of the word soul and spirit. It's incorporeal, it's not the body. The Atmana is not the mind, emotions, or body. Just as a side note, humorously, when a Swami from Sri Lanka heard about Paramahansa Yogananda's book, Autobiography of a Yogi, he couldn't stop laughing. He said, how can this be? A yogi is a no-body. Having been somebody, the true mystic, the true yogi, is literally a nobody, not trying to be anything. Now, in the Hindu Yoga Dharma, we have several words for the goal of spiritual realization: samadhi, calm wisdom; kaivalya, liberation; moksha, freedom. Free now from the confusion of simply looking at life from the outside in. Though that's an important process, now looking at life from the inside out. In these Yoga Sutras of the Saiva Hindu Guru Patanjali, which is composed of 4 steps or 4 padas, which contain many threads or sutras within them, and we must go thread by thread to create a fabric. We must go pade, step by step, to complete a pilgrimage, a yatri, a journey. And in the 3rd pada, it's called Vibhuti pada. Vibhuti is beautiful. It's the Saiva Hindu ash worn on the forehead. And it's made from purified cow dung. So literally, we are facing the BS in our life, transforming that BS into holy ash or Vibhuti, which also means power. The power obtained through living an ethical, devoted life. In this case, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, to the Hindus. Hindu ethics and selfless service and devotion. And we put on this vibhuti in 3 horizontal stripes, reminding all of us to burn up these outer negativities of greed and anger and lust, lobha, krodha, kama, by being giving, compassionate, and controlled. Dana, dayadvam, damyata. So in this vibhuti pada, Patanjali, Guru Patanjali, describes what this experience of calm wisdom or samadhi is. Tad evarta matra nirbasa svarupa sunyam iva samadhi. Sutra 3, Pada 3. Stating that this experience of samadhi is beyond light, the photon, the lingam, Mother Kali. It's beyond light. It's into the void, the sunyam, which is also sunya, the Hindu understanding of the numeral 0, created by the Hindus, not Arabic numerals. The beautiful 0, the center of the black hole, the eye of the hurricane, the absolute peace that goes beyond the material world, goes even beyond light. And in the last pada, Kaivalya pada, the Saiva Hindu Guru Patanjali, having lived the life of a Saiva Hindu, with Shiva Nataraja as his Ishtadevata, his chosen deity, states that the final goal is to not become something, not like today's yoga teachers, but to become no thing. Purushartha sunyam. The self or the Atmana merges into the void, into the absolute. Now Patanjali, whose guru was Tirunandi, had a guru brother, a famous guru brother named Tirumular, who wrote a famous South Indian scripture, Tiru Mantram, all in praise of Siva. Tirumular said, quote, "Even as shadow disappeareth with body, even as bubble returneth into water, even as flame of camphor leaveth traces none, so it is when Jiva, the individual soul, into Param, the universal soul, uniteth." Now, the Sanskrit, Tamil, Hindu word yoga, yogam, has become very popular today, but because of a lack of really qualified teachers, it's been distorted into simply something very much on an outer level. But one has to remember that this Sanskrit, Tamil, Hindu word yoga, yogam, actually has absolutely nothing to do with the physical body at all. It literally means to yuj atman brahmancha, to yoke, Y-O-K-E, to one's individual soul, and then be absorbed in the greater soul source, which Hindus call Brahman, which is not God, it's not a noun, it's a neuter term for the primal forces of Satchitananda, love, light, and energy. Of course, we use outer methodologies to tap into that, but essentially it's about going beyond the outer into the inner, and then seeing life from the inside out. And that is why, classically, traditionally, the Hatha Yoga postures, which is what people are doing today under the guise of yoga, were always directed to be kept secret. Now, in the Hindu Yoga Dharma, we have, our lifestyle is, or consists of Hatha Yoga, and also starting with Karma Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, and Raja Yoga, and Jnana Yoga, ethics, devotion, meditation to enlightenment. And within those, we have the Hatha Yoga, Hindu devotional postures, Mantra Yoga, Hindu chants, Japa Yoga, Hindu chants on beads, Nada Yoga, Hindu music, Nata Yoga, Hindu divine dance like Bharatnatyam, Shiva Nataraja, the divine dancer. So of all those classic yogas, the only one, ironically, paradoxically, that the Hindu rishi said, don't display this, keep it secret, was the very one that's out there today under the guise of yoga, Hatha Yoga. And we have classic texts on the Hatha Yoga asanas and the chakras and the kundalini, which are so fascinating to many today, enticing, but obviously taken totally out of context. And these classic texts are the Hatha Yoga Pradipika by Swami Svatmarama. We have the Giranda Samhita by Sage Giranda. We have the Siva Samhita by Sage Vasya, which is supposed to be inspired directly by an inner realization of the deities Siva and Parvati. And then the Siddhasiddhanta Bharati of Yogi Gorakhanath. And in these four classic scriptures, they all, without exception, say, basically as Yogi Svatmarama said in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, Hatha Vidya Bhaveriyavate Guya Niveda Tu Prakashanam. This knowledge, Vidya, of Hatha is powerful Bhaveda when you keep it secret, Guya, also means cave, and loses power, Niveda, when you, too, display it, Prakashavaranam. So let's look now at the Siva Samhita, for example. To, like Patanjali, show the intent here is to go from the outside in and then see life from the inside out. In Sutra 34 of Pada 1 in the Siva Samhita, I propel the mind waves towards virtue and vice. I move the whole universe. All things seen come from me. Now, is one speaking of God here? No. That's a word that shouldn't be used within Hinduism. Is one speaking of any deity here? No. All things seen come from me because I am the soul. Tat Tvamasi. This is the essence of Hindu Dharma. Thou art that. We are all the Atmana with a body, mind, and emotions. And in Sutta 35 it says, as in one's dream, the Atmana, the soul if you will, creates many objects, but on awakening everything vanishes but the Atmana. So too is this universe of Maya. And in Sutra 37, just as a rope is mistaken for a snake, and pearl shells for silver, so too this universe is the illusory covering over the Atmana. Now, many of you may have heard the snake analogy before, but maybe not in its entirety. So, two individuals are walking down a forest path at twilight, so the light is fading. And it's an area renowned for having snakes. So they're walking along, and they see a snake up in front. So the one person turns and runs away. The other approaches cautiously, and upon reaching the quote-unquote snake, realizes, oh, it's only a coil of rope. I was fooled. So this person continues to walk down the path, sees another coil of rope, confidently walks up, kicks it, it bites him, and he dies. So what's the symbolism here? What's the significance? We want to take life seriously, but not too seriously. We need to grow and get the full picture of life, having lived life. All of you know, of course, the classic story of the 4 blind men and the elephant. The 4 blind men, which is all of us, as we're still stuck in outer consciousness solely, touch each part of the elephant thinking it's something different, thinking it's a fan or a rope or a tree or perhaps a snake. But upon stepping back and truly seeing, we see something totally different. We see the being that is the elephant. Now in Sutra 38 of the Siva Samhita, quote, just like when the knowledge of the rope erroneously taken for a snake vanishes, so too, when one realizes the Atmana, the illusions of life become clear. So in these classic Shastras or scriptures of Hinduism, and by the way, the Yoga Darshana is considered one of the 6 orthodox systems of Hindu philosophy, inspired by the 6-faced deity Sanmukhanada or Muruga. These classic scriptures are simply short aphorisms or threads, sutras, meant to be explained by one's guru. So having said that, here's a comment from Sutra 38. Yes, from an ultimate realization, this life, like a dream, is also a temporary dream. However, while in this real dream, wisdom dictates that we again learn to take life seriously, but not too seriously. Taking any one life too seriously can result in the extreme of fundamentalism and stress, while on the other hand, not taking life serious enough will result in a cavalier lifestyle that can prove disastrous. The New Age universalist, New Age yogi, if you will, is a typical example of the latter tendency. In the Hindu yogic dharma, we recognize the wisdom of Prakriti and Purusha, material and spiritual, Siddhanta and Vedanta, the path and the end. Ganesha's 1 foot down, material, and the other foot up in the spirit, or Atmana. The mountain path and the summit, religion and spirituality. Remember, transcend means to climb. Having found the path, we step on it, exert our willpower, climb, commit, make it to the top. Only then are we able to lead others up that path. Never transvaluing, which means to skip over the entire process. When we don't take life serious enough, we dig our own holes of confusion at best. These depressions are precisely why all religions have demanding ethical codes of conduct. Though we may not always adhere to them, we try. We all realize that we will make many mistakes in life's journey. However, to not set the ethical bar high in the beginning is to never reach for excellence. In all areas of life, courageous individuals challenge themselves to reach heights of achievement. The modified and original code of the yamas and the niyamas, for example, is a beautiful example of striving for the goodness, if you will, that will take one into Atma Darshana, or spiritual realization. Remember, in the Yoga Sutras, the yamas and the niyamas are really extreme and intense. They're meant only for Hindu male renunciate yogis in training. Hence, we have a modified code, which is basically trying to be nonviolent, ahimsa, avoiding anger, disciplining desire, avoiding being drunk on anything in life, food, money, power, sex. Do not steal, avoid evil company, do not lie, do not lust. Again, excessive desires. These are our yamas, our restraints, the do-nots, if you will. The do's, the things we seek to cultivate. The niyamas are be pure in body, mind, and speech. Seek contentment. Cultivate devotion. Without devotion, we're not successful in anything in life. Educate oneself. Love your fellow person. Be giving, be steadfast in hardship. Continuing on with the Siva Samhita in Sutta 39, and of course we're reading the English translation from the original Sanskrit. Just like when mistaking a pearl shell for silver, so too, because of the world illusions, we do not see the reality of the Atmana. Continuing, Sutra 40, when one puts on outer makeup, etc., this is like the illusion of the world over the Atmana. Now, not being sexist, but consider how many of us, and especially women, are, from young, forced to view themselves in a very superficial way, with various coverings and makeups. Sutta 41. Because of constantly being fooled by illusions, which are very difficult to remove, one cannot perceive their Atmana. Continuing on, Sutra 42. Here's how the Sanskrit sounds. Dosa nase yata suklo, kriyate rogina svayam, sukla yanat tata, yana saratma tata kritaha. When one removes their physical defects or illusions, then one truly sees things as they are from the inside out. So too, when ignorance is removed, the Atma is revealed. Sutra 43. Just like time and the illusion of the rope and the snake, the non-dual nature of the Atmana is never part of the material world. Aja Atma Mahandruvaha, great eternal, is the Atmana, temporarily inhabiting a body, mind, and emotions, but can and will ultimately transcend them. And one more from this profound work, the Siva Samhita. Really not very popularly studied by many, but it goes in depth into the asanas and pranayama and the chakras and kundalini, but it's meant to be taught after one has a real deep understanding of the Hindu yoga dharma, just like the Yoga Sutras, which begin with ata yoga nusasana, which means now, ata after one is fully grounded in the Hindu dharma. So these scriptures, Yoga Sutras, Siva Samhita, Grana Samhita, Siddhasaranta Bharate, Hatha Yoga Pradipika, these are really like master's degrees or PhDs after one has a deep grounding and understanding of the Hindu yoga dharma. That's why they're not to be taken out of context. Just like the true yogi. Remember that all Hindus are yogis and yoginis, female, in the sense that we live the Hindu yoga, religious, spiritual, scientific, philosophical lifestyle of karma yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga, jnana yoga, hatha yoga, mantra yoga, japa yoga, nada yoga, nata yoga, all developing the inner awakening of kundalini yoga, which is the outcome. The true yogi, quote unquote, or yogini, is a Hindu renunciate. They've retired from material world. Having lived through it, they've transcended it. They've climbed into a different place. Hence, in Sutra 58, the accomplished yogi or yogini now sees every action as coming from the state of self-realization or Atma Darshana. Hindus say Atma Darshana Paramo Dharma. Dharma is duty, Hindu religious duties, of which there are many. So of all of our very important duties in life, the ultimate, the supreme param, dharma, or duty in life, is to see or realize darshana, our atmana, atma darshana paramo dharma. Continuing on with the Siva Samhita in Sutta 39, and of course we're reading the English translation from the original Sanskrit. Just like when mistaking a pearl shell for silver, so too, because of the world illusions, we do not see the reality of the Atmana. Continuing, Sutra 40, when one puts on outer makeup, etc., this is like the illusion of the world over the Atmana. Now, not being sexist, but consider how many of us, and especially women, are, from young, forced to view themselves in a very superficial way, with various coverings and makeups. Sutta 41. Because of constantly being fooled by illusions, which are very difficult to remove, one cannot perceive their Atmana. Continuing on, Sutra 42. Here's how the Sanskrit sounds. Dosa nase yata suklo kriyate rogena svayam sukla yanat tata yana saratma tata kritaha. When one removes their physical defects or illusions, then one truly sees things as they are from the inside out. So too, when ignorance is removed, the Atma is revealed. Sutra 43. Just like time and the illusion of the rope and the snake, the non-dual nature of the Atmana is never part of the material world. Aja Atma Mahandruvaha, great eternal, is the Atmana, temporarily inhabiting a body, mind, and emotions, but can and will ultimately transcend them. So, are we walking around with our pants pockets turned inside out? Are we ready to turn in? This is the eternal journey. Enjoy. Take your time. Take it seriously, but not too seriously. Enjoy and in joy. Atmadarshana paramo dharma. Search for the mystic that's within. As we go from untruth to truth, humbly admitting our ignorance as we move to an ever more enlightened state, and trying to tap into the beautiful nectar, the immortality of the Atmana. Asato ma sad gamaya, tamaso ma jyotir gamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya, seeking along the way. Shanti, shanti, shanti.